Oh, look at all the grayness. I'm tired of all this gray winter weather. I want to go someplace sunny. I'd like to jump on a jet, but I ain't got no jet. But I have a Jetta. Ooh, want to come for a little flight with me? Stay with us. Gazing at this beautiful Jetta, the Volkswagen Jetta SEL 1.5T, it reminds me of when the Jetta first appeared on the scene, and it was basically a kind of like a Volkswagen Rabbit / Golf with a trunk on it. But man, have we evolved. It is, it became so popular because it was such a great small compact that was really fun to drive, that over time it's evolved and expanded, and now it has a whopping 105.7-inch wheelbase, and it's a beautiful compact sedan, right up there with all the rest of the compact sedans. Very competitive class, and a very beautiful car. It's sculpted, you see. And it's got a very distinctive Volkswagen look to it. Almost a little bit of, dare I say it, Audi in this car? Maybe, a little bit. But overall, it has what I would consider to be a unique Jetta presence, as Jettas have become over the past about 10, 15 years. And it's nice because, there's so many companies that aren't even bothering making sedans anymore, which, well, you know how I feel about that. And if you don't, I'm sure you're not that interested. But I think a sedan is a wonderful thing to this day. And this size, which is a compact that's bordering on becoming a midsize, it's got all kinds of things that you can't get on the SUV, CUV crowd bandwagon, such as handling that is much better, a much more comfortable ride quality. It doesn't have as much ground clearance as, say, a CUV. This particular version is two-wheel drive, as are all Jettas, I believe. And this version, which is two-wheel drive. So you got your front driver, but it's also very, very stingy with a gallon of gas, and it's got very, very good performance. And this is courtesy of the motor within. We shall now delve further into the motor within right now. Well, it was very nice of my staff aplenty to open up the hood for us. And here's our 1.5T. And of course the T stands for turbo. This is in fact an inline 4-cylinder engine with a turbocharger. And where is this turbocharger? Where is everything? Well, here's an interesting thing right offhand. I don't know what's been going on with Volkswagen and their engine covers, but they've been messing around with this this engine cover system. And this one really doesn't have much of an engine cover on it at all, and I think that's great because we can really see what's going on. And I like to see what's going on. But look over here first of all. Look at all this structure here. That is your engine stabilization system, so that it helps to reduce vibration going to the cabin as the engine does its engine thing. And then here's your front party engine and your serpentine belt down there. There they all are. And if we go up here, we got 1, 2, 3. I believe there's a 4th cylinder there. But there's your coilovers that plug down into your spark plugs, and your dual overhead camshafts. And here is your exhaust, and beneath the exhaust is, of course, your turbocharger. And we come around to the front of the engine, and there we have our intake side. We have direct fuel injection, of course, as is the thing nowadays. And one of the things when I'm talking about engine covers that I think is interesting is I think a major cause of having these big plastic covers that so many cars have nowadays is to hide all this wiring. Look at all the wiring, because you got your electronic fuel injection. You got all kinds of different sensors that are associated with that. And you also have all kinds of servos doing all kinds of different things as far as your variable valve timing and everything else. So it's much easier than dress things up so it looks semi-presentable to just put a plastic cover over the top of all of it. I mean, hey, you know, makes sense, right? But it looks like Volkswagen's kind of going the route where they're going to let you see more, I guess. I don't see any fittings here that there's supposed to be any other kind of cover on here. So this must be the new way of doing it, and I approve. Incidentally, here's where you put your oil in, right? It's right in the middle of the motor, too. That's good. That's convenient. Where's your dipstick? I can't find... Oh, right there. Anyway, here we have all our fuel injection and our intakes right here. There's our 4 cylinders. And this, of course, like is so common nowadays, is made out of a composite. And over to our right, we have our box d'air right here. It sucks in all this air, takes it around to the back. And then it gets involved with your turbocharging. And ultimately, I'm not sure where it becomes underneath the engine or around the side, maybe around the side here. That's what it looks like. So that your charged side of the turbocharging gets into your intake system and off you go. So how much in the way of horsepower from this tiny little 1.5 liter? Well, 158 horsepower that's available to you at a peak of 5,500 RPM. Pretty high. But, you know what's really interesting? I got it right here. I got it written down. What's really interesting is the torque. It has 184 pounds of feet, but that peak starts out at a very lowly 1,750 RPM. That's really down low. And when you have that nice torque in your basement, that means you have what I call wonderful drivability off of the corners, because you don't have to wring the crap out of the engine to get that nice torque to pull you around the corner. Neat, huh? I like that. And it's interesting, we have all these little structures here. So you can see this steel structure. There's you don't want to see that. That's your SN. That's your serial number of some sort. I don't know if that's actually the vehicle serial number or something else. But there we go. A nice little tidy package. And we're going with the minimalist koozie for our battery. And it's still a huge battery. Most cars have them nowadays. Most have big. Your 12-volt battery is a big old unit that weighs a ton. But it is required of you because of all the electrical demands that modern cars have. Everything from all your dashboard stuff to, you know, your direct injection system requires quite a bit. So that's why you have that nice big battery. And quite often these things take a bit, depending on the design of the engine, it takes a bit of a spin up when, when you engage your starter. And this vehicle does have a automatic engine off on a start system. When you pull up to the light somewhere and the engine shuts down, then it fires back up. So you always want to have plenty of juice to that starter. And I believe this uses just a reinforced heavy-duty conventional starter and not something elaborate that like what you usually find with a hybrid, which is part of just a direct motor powering the ring gear, which, well, there's no hybrid side to this, you see. So, therefore, big battery. So let's look at the rest of this beauty. There is no way to escape the mud of the season, but we do have very good tires, which are all season tires. M+S, which stands for mud and snow. And in this case, they're mounted on 17-inch wheels, and they're very attractive Volkswagen wheels. And Volkswagen does things, this is another one of them weird things. They don't have what you call your conventional lugs. Look at this. You got your star-shaped Allen thingy, which some mechanics will tell you is straight from Satan's bottom, and others will say, no, this is better design because it's a lighter weight. You know, they work, but you have to have you can't just throw any old lug wrench on there. You have to have the fitting in order to take off the tire, you see, when you have your flats. Or if you do your own SEL, that's our trim right there. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. I'm fine, thank you. Our SEL is pretty much top of the line here, and you don't see any ostentatious ornamentation on this car, because that's not the Volkswagen way, really. I mean, I've seen a few that sometimes they go kind of silly, but whew, look at the size of that trunk. This has always been a strong point with Jettas and the Jetta, for you have a nice big trunk here with a lot of room in it. Underneath here, there's our temporary spare tire and all our various fittings and things. And what do we got here? This, God, my hands are too cold to do this. Can you believe that? Ugh. There's a fitting that must go in there in order to be used. I don't know what was there. It ain't there now. Whoops, sorry. Sorry about that. I apologize for my clumsiness. Somewhere over in there, I'm hoping, I don't know what the hell that's for. Well, somewhere, I guess, I could find it, is the fitting you need to change the tires. Remove those strange lugs. Where are you? Where are you? I'll look it up in the owner's manual. I'll probably tell you. It's probably here. Wait. Hang on. Wait, not this one. What's over here? Nothing. What the hell is that? Somebody's been in here, other than me. I don't know. Well, anyway, you got your spare and your jack, which could come in real handy. But you have all this beautiful room. And look here. If I pull this, there, I have released the 60/40 seat back in order to expand this incredibly commodious trunk further into the passenger compartment should you need it for your requirements of cargo hauling. Great, huh? Hell yeah. See? Minimalist. They don't go over the top there with all their ornamentation and frippery and nothing like that. That's pretty good. Interesting. There's a whole thing about this Volkswagen that I like, and it's called functionality. Everything seems designed, more than anything else, to be a good functional commuter, all-around compact sedan for you and your family. And provided that it proves to be reliable, which I don't have any reason to think it wouldn't be, it would be a great choice for so many people who just need a good, solid car. Now, the real telltale thing will be gas mileage, which I think is going to be excellent. That's always a major factor. And just if it's comfortable to drive in, and if it's comfortable to ride in. And if you could live with it day in and day out without getting tired of it. And I think that's one of the Jetta's strong suits, is it does in fact have a personality that grows on you over time, like all good cars do.
Welcome to the Volkswagen Digital Cockpit.
What would you like to do?
What would you like to do? See, this is the thing about these voice systems. They just butt in. Cancel. I hope this understands, because I really don't want to have anything to do with you right now. All right. I have to do another take because of you.
Welcome to my Volkswagen Digital Cockpit.
Aha! In the Jetta, we have something very beautiful. But when I first got into this car, I made a discovery that was unpleasant, and it was this. that's basically what I saw when I got in the car, because there are a couple of settings here for your digital cockpit instrumentation, and you can put all kinds of information on the right and left sides and do all this stuff. And I was under the mistaken impression initially that, unfortunately, that's what I was going to have to live with. And then I discovered this. And this is what I'm talking about. Incredibly legible, incredibly attractive, analog appearing digital instrumentation. And depending on the mode that you have the drive system set up in, this would be normal. And this is sport. Ah! We're on fire! And this is custom, which is kind of normal, actually. But you can make adjustments while it's in custom. I don't know what they are, but yeah, I'm sure they're interesting. And then we have Echo, which is kind of like a avatar sort of, you know, the people that live in the water. They're kind of turquoise colored. It's kind of a turquoise, pleasant color. Why it's not green for Echo, I don't know. And then we go back to normal, and there we go. So anyway, that is a beautiful instrument cluster right there. I really, really like that. And in addition to other things that you can do here, the central display can give you, you have your trip meter, you have oil temperature, which is 149 degrees. You have energy consumers. What's that? Gallons per hour, and the climate control's on, so that's consuming energy apparently. I mean, who wants that? And then we can go back to range, 355 miles. Overview. What's the overview? Huh. Well, 68 miles is, I assume that's on our trip meter. I believe it is. No, it's not, because we're at 119.9 on the trip meter. I don't know what that's for. The average speed is 38 miles an hour. Average miles per gallon, 38 miles per gallon. Holy guacamole, if that's true, and it probably is, or close to it, that's very, very good. That's excellent. That's near hybrid territory. And so there you go. What else do we have here? Well, you can also do it this way. That you can. Here's our basic navigational interface right there. And then we have what radio we're on. We're on the Radio Classic station. And please connect a cell phone. No. And then we have engine stop currently is not available. Driver's seat belt is unbuckled. Well, what else do you want to tell me about? Am I wearing pants? It probably doesn't know. 355 miles of range left. And I've used how much? About 1/8 of a tank, a little more. This is looking to be a very, very economical vehicle to drive. So there you go, folks. That's your main instrument cluster in all its beauty. And as we migrate over to the side, this particular trim level of the car does in fact, which is the SEL, does in fact have a little bit larger display screen for your navigation system and audio and everything else. If you put on radio, like so, and as you'll notice in the driving sequence, you just wave your hand over here and it does. I'm still not sure how I feel about that, but there you go. It actually is gesture sensitive. So if you're a person who gestures a lot, you can do a lot with your, you know, whatever floats your boat and boats your float and everything else. We have media, we have phone, we have voice, we have navigation, and then we have a general menu here with the assist systems, which you can, of course, customize a little bit, but look at the graphics on this. Isn't that something special? Settings, adaptive cruise control, front assist, lane keeping assist, blind spot monitor, they're all here. The lane keeping assist system has been turned off, probably because whoever had this car before me found it annoying, as some of us do. So there you go. I like all this. And there's our navigational. Okay. Now as we go down, here we go. The only standardized thing you find on cars these days appears to be the climate control system. And here, in fact, we have a very easy to use climate control system. It's on automatic right now, but you set your temperature right over here. And I've got them synced together, so both the passenger and driver's side are doing the same thing temperature-wise. Very normal and very straightforward and very easy to live with. I like this climate control system. Just below here, right here, that's your QI charging system for your smartphone. And it charges my phone just fine, even though my phone's in a case. But you have to be very, very careful and meticulous about where exactly you place the phone on it, else it won't work. But if you get it on there just right, it charges very quickly, very efficiently. And we move down, here's our shifter, our shifting thing. And it is, again, another one of these that looks purely like it might be mechanical, but it is in fact electronic underneath there, like they all are. And your manual mode is over here using a stick advance, plus and minus, so you can whip through those 8 speeds as you desire. If you go back, what it does, that's sport. Oh, very interesting. So that technically the manual setting is also part of the sport setting. Not unusual. That's how everybody's doing it these days. Here you have your blank switches, which are all magical, stealthy things. This is your coffee dispenser. This here's your, what is that? Oh, that's a microwave. Oh, good. And over here we have your engine start-stop, which you can turn off. And then your driving mode, which you saw me playing with earlier, is right here. And then we have your cup holders, dual cup holders. And then you have a nice little console that's actually surprisingly deep. And you have some interface back there for your smartphone USB type things. But here's your USB-Cs right up here, which are much more convenient if you need to do that. But this thing does have CarNet, which is also, I believe it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, in addition to, you can do something with this chick called Alexa. I don't know who she is, but apparently she's very technically minded. I don't know about that stuff, but because I just don't find it, I find it more of a distraction than something to assist. But, you know, by all means, do indulge if you enjoy that sort of thing. If you enjoy talking to your car all the time. Now, the steering wheel itself, Volkswagen has moved. They used to have, or the standard practice in Volkswagen and Audis was to have the cruise control right down here on a little stalk. But instead, we now have it up in this steering, and it is much easier to deal with. Here's your volume for your radio. Here's your on and off, and this is your lane keeping, which you will see during the driving sequence is a lane keeping system much on par with everything else that's out there, which is neither particularly good, particularly bad. I just don't particularly like it, but there you go. And here you have your adaptive cruise control. Plus and minus is your speed in your cruise control, and this, of course, is your following distance right here. And then your resume. Over here we have your high and low beams, your turn signals, and what's this do right here? Oh, there we go. What? Huh? Lane assist. Oh, that's your lane assist system thingy. What if I do that? What does that do? Well, anyway, that's that. That's what that does. God, it's not like it's exactly naturally intuitive now, is it? And something else I didn't mention is when you come to your radio settings here, you would think that this would be, I will reiterate this again, I'm sure, when I'm driving, but I would always assume that you just naturally, if you come from if you were born and are driving cars and you were born like after, I don't know, 2018, you probably expect that right knob to be a tuning knob, but it's not. Instead, it says apps and car. Well, cars, that's what we're talking about here. And apps and apps. But as far as what this does, I have no idea. We'll go back here. There we go. So anyway, it's not as bad as I'm making it. It's all very, very straightforward. Once you understand how everything works, you're fine. But you got to learn. There's a learning process. There's a bit of a curve there. So, what else do we have? We have extremely comfortable leather seating. We have a bit of debris here. It looks like it come from the store. We we have both. Do we have both heating and ventilation? Negative on that. We have heating for your front seats. These seats are very, very nice, and this material is quite comfortable, I must say. Volkswagen's always been good at this, and they have that wonderful mix between good lateral side support through your bolsters here, but also room for a broad variety of individuals, and pretty much all these individuals will be comfortable. So, but what about the individuals in the back? Shall we? Oh, let's. Oh boy, it sure is dirty in there. That must have been me. My shoes. Not 90 degrees, but I'd say 80 something, 81 degree opening there. And as we sit, in typical Volkswagen fashion, even though this is a front wheel drive car, it has a massive drive shaft tunnel. Big old thing here. So if there is an individual riding in the middle, they will have to splay their legs. But you have heated outboard seats here, which is excellent. Always nice to have that for your rear seat passengers. Let them know someone cares. And as you can see, the leg room is very good. The headroom is excellent. For a car that kind of borders the compact to mid-size, although it is considered a compact because that's what the size class is it's in. Good room, very, very good room for adults back here. And you got your map lights. Woohoo! Look at that. Look at there. And again, this upholstery is extremely accommodating as far as having good lower back support and some lateral support. A lot of back seats don't have much in the way of lateral support. This car does. And the armrest is what I would consider to be nigh on excellent. The only drawback to these back seats, and I have to tell you about it because it's not readily apparent just by looking at them, is they are at a fairly high rake. In other words, they're close to 90 degrees. I don't know if it's 90 degrees or not, but it's a bit upright. If they had a little bit more of a recline, tilt back to it, I think you'd be more comfortable back here. But it's not that bad. It's just noticeable compared with a lot of other cars. But they make up for that with all this wonderful room you have back here. So excellent space utilization by Volkswagen. And you see, the overall layout is pretty logical, and we would be lost without our faux analog instrumentation, but that is a beautiful instrument cluster. I really love it. It's easy on the eyes, it's very clear, it's very easy to navigate through for the most part, but best of all, it does its job. Think about how much you actually do look at that instrument cluster when you own a car. You look at it a lot because that's where all your operations center will tell you as to if you're breaking the law and things like that. How much fuel you have left, if your car is overheating. You spend a lot of time with that, and if you have a system or a layout of gauges and things that is attractive, you don't get tired of driving the car. It's a psychological thing, but I think it's very real. The same thing if the instruments, when you put your fingers on various buttons and switches and everything else, if it feels solid and well made, it imparts a feeling of solidarity to your car. So there you go. There's our Jetta. Our incredibly interesting digital cockpit layer for your enjoyment. All right, V1, V2, rotate, oh dear, or is it V1 rotate? I don't remember anymore. It's been so long since I've flown a 747. I actually never have, but I did fly a 727 flight simulator once, like a real one, at American Airlines Flight Academy, but that's a different story from a different era. I don't think I even had a driver's license yet. But anyway, the Jetta. I keep thinking aerodynamic things when I'm in the Jetta. One of the things I really like about this car is it delighted me. What's that sound? Everybody, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been informed by the spouse that we will be having salad with our dinner tonight. I wanted you to know that because salad's very good for you. More especially the salads we make. Woo, boy. All right. Now then, where were we? Oh, yes. Yeah, so here's what happened. I initially, I went through everything on this car as far as all this. But what I did not really emphasize strongly enough, or I haven't yet, but I will, and then you'll see it before this, is this. This was the initial display that was set up on my car, and it's nothing. The speedometer's way down here in the corner, and this tells you the transmission selection, in this case, drive. And then, you know, it's just blah. There's nothing here. You can add stuff, and then you put it here, and you can put little things here, like it's saying, since I've started the car, I'm getting 15.5 miles per gallon. That's what happens with your cold engine, folks. When you first start out, that's when your mileage, your emissions, and everything is just bad. Worry. But once you get everything warmed up, then things get beautiful. And then on this car, you're going to get in the 30s miles per gallon wise if you behave yourself. Because it's just a teeny little 1.5 liter turbocharger to 184 horsepower, and that little spinning turbo device can pump up to, I think it's 28 psi, 25 psi, a whole bunch of psi's. To speed you on your way. The seat heater works really well. I tell you, the weather around here right now, that's one of my favorite transition turnettes, is because it unloads the suspension of the car completely, and then comes back, so that then the suspension is unloaded and then loaded again. And it tells you a lot about, well, how stiff is this suspension? Well, it's pretty God, I wouldn't call it limp. I wouldn't describe it as floaty, undamped, but it's not like a full-on sports car, to be sure. Unlike the Jettas of old, the very first Jettas, which had pretty stiff little suspensions on. And I'm sure if you get, there's another version of the Jetta called the GLI, which has a bigger engine, and I think the suspension tuning may be different. I don't know for sure. But the point is, it's good though. It's still a real nice, comfortable ride, and the handling is fine. There's nothing wrong with the car moving around the suspensions. If you can't handle it, you're a crap driver. That's what I have to say about that. Just learn where the wheels are going and learn what the car is going to do, and it ain't going to hurt a thing. Do I have to tell the Carl Fogarty World Superbike Champion Ducati story again about having a suspension setup that's fairly soft? No, I don't. You know it. You know it. The fact is, a soft suspension can do a lot of things for you, especially in bumpy corners, up to a point until it gets overworked. Then it's problematic, but you still can get through the corner at a good rate. And this car, it just feels good driving it. It has a real nice balance in terms of the suspension compliance and the suspension control. It's good. I like it. They went a little too far in the soft direction, I think, a few years ago, but they've been tuning, they've been playing with things, and you know, there's all these other factors involved, including the tires that you have on here, and the OEM tires on this car are quite good, as seems to be the trend these days. They're putting better two things. I heard somebody bitching about sound systems in new cars, and I said, au contraire. They're so much better than they used to be. Yeah, they're not as good as your premium, super premiums that you might be able to put in yourself, i.e. have it installed by somebody that is state-of-the-art if you just have the standard sound system that comes in the car. However, the standard sound system in this car, as is true, which is a Beats sound system. It got the little, I think it's Beats, yeah, there's the Beats thing right there. It's quite good. I mean, it sounds great. And it's in the car. You don't have to spend more money on the car after you bought it to put a better one in, unless you're just really, you consider yourself an audiophile, but I think you got a tin ear. That's what I think. I'm being very hard on some of these people that are buying cars these days. I'm being real hard on them. Don't mean to be, but you know, it's a big investment, a car, huge. Even if you're wealthy, because if people decide, it is so important for a car to be an expensive, big investment, that's why these rich people go out and buy these cars that cost over $250,000. Because it has to be a big expense, your car, it just has to be. So, in the case of this car, you're looking in the 30s in the miles per gallon, and you're looking in the 30s in the thousands of dollars to buy it. 30 and 30. Right in there. Not low 30s, mid 30s. Sometimes upper 30s in the miles per gallon. But I find this car, another really interesting thing about it is this really is a small engine. I mean, 1.5 liters is last time I checked, a Goldwing motorcycle from Honda, I think it's still a 1.8 liter flat six, but that's a bigger engine than that is in this car. That's a motorcycle. It's a big, heavy motorcycle and performs quite well, but it's still just a motorcycle and weighs considerably less than this car does. But see, you get on the gas here and it turbos up, it spins up. Oh, I've still got the dash I hate on. Here we go. Now this display here with the mimicked analog instrumentation is beautiful. And in my drive mode selector here, I can change color a little bit. If I go to sport, look at there, red. It's red. Ah, we're red. Going red. And then custom is back to normal. And then eco is kind of a, it's still blue, but it's more of a turquoise. Why that's eco instead of just green? Just make it green like most, I have no idea. So we'll go back to normal. But I think this display is absolutely beautiful because it's so sharp and easy to read. Very, very concise. Looks like a glass cockpit on an airplane, on a jet. Jetta, you see, that's where it comes from. Well, the actual Volkswagen digital cockpit is becoming pretty much standard in all of the Volkswagen products. And I don't know. It's fine. I've had a couple, pardon me. I've had a couple of cars in the past when we were first going to the digital revolution that had occasional glitches in the system, whereas you suddenly didn't have instruments anymore. I've had screens like the center navigation screen right here. I've had them go completely blank on some very, very expensive cars and some not so expensive cars. But that's in the past, pretty much. I haven't had an incident like that in, I'd say, 2 or 3 years at the least, which is a good sign that, you know, it's, look at how reliable most of our computers, our desktop computers, our laptops, and our tablets in particular, how reliable those things have gotten as far as the image quality and the image not freaking out on you. It doesn't happen very often unless liquid, if they interact with liquid, that's a problem. I could tell you a story about my latest acquisition in the computer department, which was a new laptop that was perfect until a dog hit a drink that was way to the left of it, but it poured. It's a laptop that prides itself on being quiet because I don't think it has any cooling fans. Doesn't need them. May have them, but they almost never come on unless the processor's just working and working and working. And anyway, but it's all the way they get away with that is it's extremely well ventilated, and it's also well ventilated also means very permeable to the liquids coming in there and, you know, doing what they do. They do things. But all in all, this is kind of a nondescript car, and there's not anything that screams out at you about it. But I say that in terms of good and bad. It's not anything. It's just, oh, this is so fantastic. But at the same time, there's no problems with anything. There's no really bad design. I mean, once you get used to, for example, I've always had a problem with the lower mounting stalk system that they use for cruise control, but on this Jetta, it's right here. They've moved it up to the steering wheel, like seems to be coming to place. We're edging towards complete standardization in that regard, and this works so much better than the other way. Anyway, this road still has those imperfections from snowplow activity, and the stretch I was just on is also almost always got a very strong crosswind in it, which is great because I always drive to see if anything gets blown around on it. This car, Volkswagen brags on this car about having a very low, I think it's 0.26 coefficient of drag. It's a very aerodynamic car, and I am not one to argue, because it does seem to handle crosswinds really well, and it's also very quiet. So there you go. I mean, they're doing their work on this. While you're out there, you know, going to Margaritaville and getting all tanked up, they're hard at work in there with their computers and their abacuses and their slide rules. And they're figuring all this stuff out, and then they're getting their clay models out, and they're sculpting, and then they're making prototypes, and then sticking them in the wind tunnel and see how they do. And the result is something that we can all enjoy. All right, here we go. We're set. 70 miles an hour. Now there's two different buttons here for our cruise control. One of them is regular old cruise control on off, and the other one is, this button here is travel assistant. So what does that mean? It means the car is steering itself, making those little corrections that they all do. And I'm going to take left here and pass this car. Now, so far, my experience with this Jetta has been a very pleasant one when it does use this travel assist thing, because the steering in when it's lane centering, lane tracing, whatever you want to call it, it seems to work well, very inobtrusive. Now right now it's not doing anything, and it shouldn't, and then the changes are fairly subtle here. How long am I going to drive before it tells me to take over the steering? Yep. I think it's 5 seconds on most cars. Nah, it can't be right. I want to say 7 seconds. It's not 10 seconds, is it? Nah, 10 seconds is too. Maybe it is. But the car will tell you, no, put your damn hands. They never have one that says that. Put your damn hands back on the steering wheel. What if a deer runs out? I can't do anything about it. The car will just scold you and say, I can't do anything about that. I mean, I'll see it, but I'll probably see it a little late, and then I'll just freak out, and all these algorithms will kick in, and no telling where it's going to do with the car. It's going to slam on the brakes, even though you don't necessarily want to do that. You may want to steer around it. That might be the most effective way of dealing with it. And so they do want you to keep your hands on the wheel, and I recommend you do that. That's a very good idea.
Well, I know you're dying to know, what is that beautiful blue color? Well, it's called Rising Blue Metallic. And the inside is called Titan Black Leather, so that's cool. Even though I think there's some sort of textile thing going on anyway. Anyway, our base price of this beautiful little machine is $28,385, and as this is the SEL model, you really don't need a whole lot of other stuff option wise. So your sticker comes to after the piddlies, packages and options, which are almost nothing, $29,280. Now friends, that is a bargain for a fine car like this. It's got all kinds of good stuff that you need in a, you need a cat not to attack the microphone wire, and you also need to drive carefully out there because, well, let's face it, it's a dangerous place, the roadway, and you want something nice and safe and secure like this beautiful little 23 Jetta for your entertainment. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.